Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. We're unpacking a theory today that completely challenges the very foundation of how we typically map early human migration. We've all seen the standard models, right? Humanity radiating outward from a single point, entirely on foot, over tens of thousands of years. But the source material we're looking at presents a radically different picture, one driven by the unstoppable, massive force of the world's oceans.
It presents a really unconventional mystery, asking us to consider a monumental what if. What if the map of human migration is actually completely backward? What if humanity spread across the globe not primarily by walking, but by literally riding massive ocean currents? And even crazier, what if this entire global dispersal actually originated from a hub in South America?
Well, to impartially understand how this theory is built, we're going to break down its evidentiary pillars step by step. We'll look at an unconventional origin, the Oceanic Gyre highway, rafting the currents, tracing genetic markers, ancient fossil anomalies, and finally, a mirrored expansion.
Starting with Part 1, an unconventional origin.
The source really challenges us to view the Americas not as a final destination or a dead end, but as an ancient cradle of humanity. Just think about this for a second. The oldest mummies in the world, they aren't in Egypt. They're actually found in Chile. When you combine that with ancient pyramids and ziggurats in Peru and Chile, plus these massive overland water routes connecting Lake Titicaca straight to the Amazon, the source argues for a human timeline in South America that is vastly older than conventionally accepted.
Moving to Part 2, the Oceanic Gyre highway.
This is where the core mechanism of the theory comes in. The source proposes that the 5 major oceanic gyres acted as natural, global conveyor belts. Take the Peru current, for instance, sweeping right along the west coast. The theory argues this specific flow could effortlessly catch and carry departing populations from a South American hub, sweeping them straight out into the vast Pacific Ocean and connecting them to the rest of the world.
That brings us to Part 3, rafting the currents. Now you might be wondering, could ancient people really survive these massive ocean highways? To prove that passive rafting is a totally viable concept, the source points to explorer Thor Heyerdahl. Imagine this, he spent 100 days adrift on a simple raft, carried by these exact currents all the way to the Solomon Islands. No rowing, no sailing, no rudder. Just passive drifting. The argument here is that if purely passive rafting works, then active rowing and early sails would have turned these oceans into high-speed transit routes.
Next up, Part 4, tracing genetic markers.
To track this movement biologically, the source relies heavily on incredibly ancient genetic identifiers. We're talking millions of years old, like PV92 and Signal Y. And the crucial takeaway? These markers are found at their absolute highest frequencies deep in the Amazon forest of Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia. If South America is the central engine of human dispersal, the genetics literally have to flow outward from this exact spot.
And it's fascinating to see how those exact Amazonian genetic markers perfectly map onto the destinations touched by the ocean currents. From Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia, the Pacific currents naturally carry you to Polynesia, Micronesia, and Melanesia. From the Amazon, the flow takes you to Australia, specifically right near Mungo Lake. Follow the Pacific Gyre even further, and it links directly to the Andaman Islands in India. The biological breadcrumbs basically match the flow of the water to a T.
Which leads us to Part 5, ancient fossil anomalies. There is a really stark comparison here. Under a standard Africa First overland migration model, it's incredibly difficult to explain the 50,000-year-old human fossils found at Mungo Lake in Australia. Or take the isolated island of Sulawesi. It's always been surrounded by deep water, even during the ice ages. So how do we explain 1-million-year-old fossils there? Instead of trying to figure out how humans somehow walked to these waterlogged places, this theory suggests a much simpler answer. They just arrived on the currents.
By overlaying the ocean gyres, the mystery kind of starts to unravel. Suddenly, those 1-million-year-old fossils in Sulawesi, the 1-million-year-old fossils along China's Yangtze River, and even the 30 unsequenced Homo erectus remains in Java all connect back to that exact same South American origin point via the Pacific currents. Even hyper-isolated spots like Easter Island, Hawaii, Japan, and Korea fall right onto this oceanic highway.
And finally, Part 6, a mirrored expansion.
Because their theory doesn't just stop in the Pacific. It outlines a perfectly mirrored pattern occurring simultaneously across the Atlantic Ocean, sweeping east and north.
Following these flows, populations from northeast Brazil and the Amazon could seamlessly ride the water up to Central America and Florida, or right across the ocean to northern Europe, the Atlantic facades, and North Africa.
The source organizes these Atlantic migrations into distinct waves across a really staggering timeline. It connects the spread of ancestor populations from over 1 million years ago to the appearance of 300,000-year-old fossils in Jebel Irhoud, North Africa. It even maps a surprising genetic turnover just 4,500 years ago, tracking the migration of the R1 haplogroup from North America straight over to Europe, which spawned the R1A and R1B lineages that actually dominate modern European populations today.
So by combining oceanography, plant and human genetics, and these wildly isolated fossil anomalies from Sulawesi all the way to Jebel Irhoud, this source attempts to construct a highly alternative, interconnected web of ancient global peopling. It paints a picture of early humans not as isolated walkers blocked by the sea, but as active, ingenious navigators of a vibrant, moving, blue planet.
It absolutely leaves us with a profound question about the ingenuity of ancient humans, and it forces us to reconsider the true vastness of our shared global journey. If the oceans were always highways instead of barriers, what else about our ancient history remains undiscovered, just waiting out there in the currents? Thanks for joining me on this Explainer today. Keep questioning and keep learning.